Hi, I'm Gail.
Hi, I'm Catherine. Welcome to Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, our award-winning weekly podcast. Visit womenover70.com and learn how you may become involved. And join Aging Reimagined Circle. Enjoy free participation in our online monthly programs. And we want to thank our sponsor, Women's Connection, a nonprofit women's group with chapters around the country. Members are vibrant, accomplished women, age 50 and forward, who connect around common interests, empower each other to thrive, and stick together as they travel through the stuff of life, no matter what comes their way. And thanks for listening today.
And today we are having Alice Rose, 78, in our studio. We're very happy to have you, Alice. Thank you for being here. Alice is a resident of Oak Park, Illinois, and her first career was in early childhood education, which led her to know my longtime friend, Gail Mendes, who introduced us. As a lover of art, history, and sociology, Alice's career has taken numerous twists and turns. In 1988, she applied to the Department of Defense Civil Service System and moved to Stuttgart, Germany. There, she worked with Army childhood centers. She then moved to the Air Force in Europe, working with all bases that had families in Europe. After 10.5 years, she returned to New Jersey in 1999. Photography and art have played an influential role in Alice's life, leading to yet more adventures. Indeed, Alice, you have been a lifelong learner. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. You told me when you spoke that you didn't see what your profession would be. So,
Right.
yeah. So looking back now, is there a common thread that runs through your various careers?
That introductory conversation with you was really helpful, Gail, because what I realized is that one of the essences has been just interesting opportunities that have come up over a variety of circumstances in my life when I just sort of review it. But there are some commonalities in terms of things that I have loved and always been interested in, and those are books and paper. I made a little list: art, color, travel, history, right? And so in the child care centers, which was, how I earned my living, right? And actually started because I was able to bring my daughter with me to a child care center, and which was super important at the time. It was an interesting experience. I learned a lot, and Chicago, where I was and still is a very vibrant city for the child development programs. The Erickson Institute. There's a rich camaraderie of people, and that was one of the things that was a big part of my work life. And then, if I can move on, I can just talk about that when I moved back from Europe in 1999, I applied to and got into the guide training program at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And that camaraderie with people who were really interested in the same things. I mean, I was with a group of people who didn't have to make excuses for how many art books they had or, where they were traveling. But there was a sense of community that was huge. And I had that in the childcare, with so many advocates. Gail would have been part of that. And also in this museum group. So connections, which you keep seeing, in terms of lifelong learning, was one of the things that was huge. Yes. So
Interesting. Yes. And all that came out of our conversation.
yeah, because I had to summarize it, and there's only a half an hour, and you don't need to hear every little detail, but it's those connections that are important, right?
Yeah.
So, and right.
Yeah, it's fascinating to look back for sure.
Yes.
So, your path dramatically shifted after childhood early childhood centers, working with families and all. And and you started a business called what? BA Book Design?
BA Book Design, yes, with a young woman, Bethany DeLillo, who is a graphic designer, and she and I connected over our love of books. And at a at a dinner conversation a number of years ago, I said, I absolutely I think everybody needs to write a memoir. Bethany said, I've always wanted to design book covers because she was doing other kinds of design work. And her mother said, we have a memoir that your grandfather wrote when he was shot down in Europe at the end of World War II. And so, and I actually have a few little examples here. So Bethany and I got together and we did a book, and it's called 10 Weeks Worth Forgetting. And she wrote an introduction. I went through a box of photographs. She did a what happened afterwards, and then she did a map. This was done as a gift for her mother, and on the map it is where all the words that her grandfather had put in the had put in the in his short memoir about where he was stationed in England, where he was shot down, and what the path was. So we realized that we loved doing books. We liked each other, which was we're very, very compatible. And so we did another book based on my photographs because I've been taking pictures for years, and that was this little book. And it is some of my photographs and some poems, and so photographs and some poems and
That you wrote, Alice?
pardon me?
Poems that you wrote?
No, quotes. No, I'm sorry, not poems, quotes that I loved. Because like so many people, I have notebooks and notebooks filled with a few words that have been important in me, like how you spend your days is how you spend your life. Quotes like that is just like, whoa, okay, that's important. And then the one that sort of everybody knows about, travel being fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. That was on the back. And so we decided to go into business because what we found out in the process was that you can self-publish, that you can do printing on demand, you can do, which I didn't know about. It was a whole new world. And you can design something and have it printed for, one copy or 50 copies or whatever, however you want. So we then, just through actually Bethany's father-in-law at the time, John, we found another client, and this was the next book that we did. Is called Kinsley Grace, and this book, so I met this woman, Leanna, and she's a quilter, and look at this. So this is a photograph of her quilt. And then she had already written a book that is a welcome to her first granddaughter, Kinsley Grace. And so Bethany took all these quilt pictures and made it into a hardback book. And then we have Leanna and her granddaughter on the back, because when people are self-publishing as opposed to going to a publisher to try to get a book, we had all these questions like, do you want an author's photo? Do you want, what do you want to say? Do you want to dedicate it to someone? And so Leanna did this.
Oh.
And then COVID came. And we had just finished Leanna's book, and there was a newspaper in Chestnut Hill, Pennsylvania, that did an article on her and her business. And on the day that that article was published, we got 3 clients. And each one of those clients was very, very different in terms of what their needs were. And our goal has been, to be a resource for people who have something that they want to get printed. So the first one was a little book called How the Bears Got to the Park. And this was the story of written by a woman, Kathy, whose husband had just passed away. He was a sculptor who had a park, who had a sculpture of three bears in a park in Philadelphia. And so this was, for him, it gave her something really interesting to do. She was so creative. She's an artist herself, but she had to have somebody help her get on Zoom because we were doing everything on Zoom. Then we got another client, and I'm showing you these because it just shows you the wide variety, right? We got another client, a man who was a middle school principal, and his was called Phineas McPhee Helps with Kelp. And what this client, Bruce, did is that he had a poem that was perfect. It was about helping. It was a story for somebody who'd had an assignment that needed to learn how to think about studying. He hired an artist, Chiara Lattanzano, and Chiara did these beautiful, beautiful illustrations that matched his words. He was such a good detail person. He drew out a storyboard for her, what he wanted from the art. And so we did this for him. This is on it's on Amazon, but the big thing about it is the color quality is excellent. The production is nice. And I think Bruce sells this for about $10 because these books can be published. These print on demand books can be published for, not a lot of money in the $5 and $6 range. Right. And then we had another person who did her own art. Oh, do you want me to keep going on in this, or do you want to move to another?
No, go with this one.
Oh, okay. So this artist, she was a friend. She's written this story a long time ago, and she does collage. And so Carolyn's also. So what we did. Carolyn does collage, and so these are drawing. It's a combination of drawing and paper cutout and different backgrounds that she did. And she was very involved in this. She chose not to have an artist photograph, but she wrote a 2-page how she came about the story. So everybody does it differently. And anyway, okay. And then I want to just talk about one more quickly. And that is that the third client we got that day, that was August the 1st of 2020, is a woman, Janet, who for years, I think she started in her 60s, started taking writing classes, and she was journaling. So she had all these stories. She has 50 chapters in this book. Some of which are 2 pages, some of which, like her career, are many more pages. And she hired us to just put photographs in to help put it together. And she doesn't want to sell this, but she gave this she was writing it for her children, her grandchildren. Originally, she told us she wanted to get 10 copies, which, that becomes, it was sold on a company actually called Blurb. She ended up getting over 80 because as she was going through the process of getting more information, she was talking to people. So it took her 2 years to finally, to do her edits, to get clarification. And it was fabulous to be with her. Mm-hmm. And so she was very creative, very sure about what she wanted. So anyway, that's BA Book Design. So we have people waiting, we have people on a list that are in the process of finishing what their books are. Mm-hmm. Right? Can I keep going a little bit?
Go ahead.
To that end, somebody who was with us almost from day one, and I think she's 99% ready. Her book is called Manet, Monet, and Money. Her name is Michelle. And her book, she's a wealth manager. She's a chief financial officer for a large company. And she wanted to write her book, and her theory was talking about how some people feel intimidated going into an art, not intimidated, but they're not sure about going into an art museum. She was a fellow guide at the museum. And in the same way, how women look at money. And so she put this all together. She's put this together. I've seen many variations of it. She just keeps wanting to work on it. But because it was art, her goal was to try to, one of her goals, she has many, I don't want to talk for her, was to be able to have a handout so that when she went to talk with groups like of recently divorced women, for example, there would be a social worker, there would be an attorney, there would be other people, and Michelle was the finance person, just to help people think. And she was looking for a small brochure, a small book. And so I did this for her, just as an idea of a cover. This is someone looking at a piece of art at the Art Institute of Chicago. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that she could use my photographs, or anything that she wants, because it's people's choice, and then write, put her book in there and make it interesting, and figure out whether she wants to have lines for people to do things. But anyway, it's been a fabulous process with interesting people, Gail.
I can see you're not at all intrigued by this.
Right. I know.
It's so wonderful. Yes, to have a pursuit like this that you really, really enjoy.
Because they're so interesting, and they all approach it differently. And Bethany and I are so clear that it's their own book. It's their own decision about how they want to do it. We give them choices. So I'm working on 3 of my own. I think that's
that's
that's the transition. So in the process, I do have 3 books going. One of the books got started during COVID, and it was photographs, stories about the 10 and a half years that I lived in Europe. I had boxes of photographs. I was trying to sort it, and I had just been exposed to someone who had COVID, so I knew I wasn't going anywhere for a couple of weeks. This was early on. And so I just started to lay it out. And Bethany says she can make this into a book for me. Because she actually, she's outstanding and can do anything that I don't have the skills for. So I'm working on that. The second, and this is not in order, the other book is that my mom was the poster model for the 25th anniversary of the Girl Scouts. And I've sent you a picture of that'll be attached. And then they reissued the poster on the 75th anniversary of the Girl Scouts. And she was a young woman during the Depression. She and her sister went to New York. They were in a small town in New Jersey. She worked in a cafeteria, and the artist, a man named Lawrence Wilbur, who he was an artist, he saw her and asked her to be a model for him. So of course, she went with her sister. She posed 2 times. On the back of the photo of the painting, of which we had a copy, she talked about what she did with the money. My brother thinks that she got $25, for which she paid her share of rent. She did something else. She sent money to her parents. But the big thing is that poster was all over the buses in New York City. It was on stamps. It was used in a lot of different images. So I want to write that story about her. And I started to do it working with Carolyn, the woman who does the collage. I'm still thinking about it. And then I get distracted, because the third book that I want to do is a book about inspiration. About like what inspires me. And unfortunately, I think it's fortunate. A lot of things inspire me. Color inspires me, there's just different things. So I did a book of just black and white photographs when I came back from a trip in July. And then Bethany and I did this experiment called The Colors of Turkey, because so I went to Turkey more than 25 times when I worked for the Air Force, because there were 2 Air Force bases there, Incirlik which is no longer has families, and Izmir, and the colors. And so I took photographs of carpets. I did all kinds of photographs because this is a hardback book that you can do on Amazon. And this book, and they have a minimum number of pages. It's 75, which we now know. But this book costs less than $12. Then you have to pay to ship it. But there's lots of ways that within this self-publishing business that one can get things out, and you can sell them or you can make copies for your own interest. Right. Yeah.
So, Alice, will you and Bethany accept any kind of material, any kind of writing, or does it need to have a lot of photographs and the art?
We haven't turned anyone down because our model is that they can consult with me for free and it's no cost. I mean, we had this Michelle, right? We've been working with her for 4 years now. So I would help them get to the point where it's ready to go because we don't charge until they get to the design process. So we want people to think about whether they want to pay to have a cover designed, if they have something that they really want. We want them to think about if they want to dedicate their book. What I said about with Leanna about, do they want to have an author's photo, and what do they want to write, so that as much as possible is done beforehand. So we would talk to anyone. And on our website, Catherine, we have put on photographs that people can buy. It's $10. It's just a nominal little charge if they want to use it. And then also Chiara, who did Bruce's book with the great colors, she's a fine artist. So you could commission somebody, or we have a woman who's thinking about publishing her poetry, and Carolyn, who does the collage work, she also does Zentangle, which she can do designs. So we would help people get to that point because we only want them to pay for what Bethany will do, right? So, right. So, right. Yes.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yes. Yes. We think it's a nice model, and we can really work on one book at a time.
So clearly you don't have time to think about your own aging, but do you?
Oh, well, you asked me, and that was one of the questions. So I did make a little note, right? So, I got 2 new knees. It was vital. I had arthritis. So I did that process, and my 2 friends, Carolyn, both named Carolyn, came and helped me get through that healing process, which I had never had surgery ever. I had a baby. I hadn't even had a stitch in my whole life, right? Not even so I was very scared, but they came and they were so helpful. My learning is something that I'm really interested in, but I want to tell you that there's another thing that has happened, Gail, since you and I talked, and that is that since the beginning of January, I have been listening to some classes and consulting with a lifestyle medicine doctor. And so I have moved now to a 99.99% vegan diet. And am just relearning. I am rethinking about how to cook. I'm rethinking about what to put in my body. And I'm going to actually send you the website. The doctor that I'm working with, her name is Catherine Hall. She was an anesthesiologist who, and I think that she was more than 10 years, and then she went back for a recertification as a lifestyle medicine doctor. Mm-hmm. And lifestyle medicine is nutrition, restorative sleep, exercise, stress reduction, absence of habitual chemicals, and connections. Right. So look at this. it's such a small world I didn't realize that you were supported by Women's Connection because I was part of that group in Philadelphia. Catherine's mother, Carol, was my connection to Catherine. So I was part of that group for several years in Philadelphia.
Nice. Yes.
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 That's right. Yes.
So your thinking about aging has to do with how you're thinking about what's going in your body and what you're eating and how it's going to be conducting yourself, kind of mind, body, and spirit this
Yes.
forward.
Right.
Difference do you notice?
Pardon me?
Do you notice any differences?
Yeah. 10 days in, 10 days, all of a sudden I felt brighter, right? And she started this group with, just make well, first of all, I want to tell you, we had to go get we could choose to, but to go get a body scan, to see the difference between fat and muscle in your body. That was an eye opener. And then we sent her our blood numbers if we wanted. She's in Philadelphia, so people could go to her if they wanted. And they just asked us to make one or two small, doable changes. I reduced the sugar in my coffee, and I had oatmeal every day. Okay, it's just something that I built into my diet. Then I learned about, older women, I don't know the age exactly, but you need more protein and sort of the reasons why. So then I started watching protein, and instead of sprinkling a few chia seeds on, I put 2.5 tablespoons of chia seeds on because that's part of what gets you the protein that you need and the fiber. So I've been really in a self-educating process, and there is a nurse who works with her as an intern, and I get to talk with her for about a half an hour. And we just talked about things at Trader Joe's that are healthier food, things that I just have passed up that I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I've deleted all the other things that I'm trying to just rethink things. And I will tell you, Catherine and Gail, that one of the things that was really eye-opening was a photograph that she showed us of arteries that were unclogged after 36 months on a plant-based diet. And that for me, I know that I have those, well, this is getting too much information. I just have arteries, I'm paying attention to diet. So now I am focusing on this. I can't even hardly think about other things because there's so much I don't know. I didn't realize that people put all those spices in for such great health reasons. I thought it was for flavor. So anyway, yes, at the last class we cooked. Catherine Dr. Hall sent us a recipe, and we had all the things, and we cooked. And as we were all in, I think there's 9 people on her Zoom class. And then she just told us why you do certain things, why you need certain things in your diet, why they tell you not to have garlic before you go into anesthesia, just little things that are so interesting, right? Yes, right.
Well, you're on that lifelong learning curve again.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. That's why somebody said, do you want to take a class? And I said, I have a lot of books here that I am looking at, and some of them go back to those blue zones. I don't know whether you know about. I think a lot of people know bits and pieces. And one of the books is written by 2 doctors who are the doctors in Loma Linda, California, and they give you about a half of the book is just about writing about thinking about the things that one needs to think about for a good lifestyle, right? A healthy lifestyle, and then the rest of it is recipes. And so, yeah, lots to think about, right?
Lots to think about. I hate to draw this conversation to a close, but we've come to that time, and it's been just delightful, Alice, talking to you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. The first phone call helped me solidified this. So thank you, Gail. Thank you, Kelly.
I'm glad. Yes.
And thank you. And listeners, we would like to see more of you at our monthly online programs. Make your voice heard as we together change the conversation about women aging. And visit Aging Reimagined Circle at womenover70.com. Another podcast you might enjoy is Fit Strong Women Over 50. Jill McCausland and Chris Brown interview experts and share motivational stories about getting fit, healthy eating, strength training, running, and staying motivated. We'll see you next week.